Hello, hello.
Greetings and salutations. I'm quickly reading your PR to try to catch up on this.
Perfect. I'm adding a new one.
I think everybody else is on summer hours this week, which admittedly we're 2 days before the 4th, so I can understand that. How's it going today, Rob? Good to see you.
Definitely a quiet crowd.
Yep, quiet crowd, but we're also 5 minutes after, so technically I should start to force people into a better habit of not showing up too late. Let's kick this thing off. What do you say? First, get the green screen working. Get that thing up. And let's share a screen here. Desktop. Okay. Just in case people show up late, I'll go ahead and get my comments and everything working on my side. And yeah, let's see here. I've got the stuff out there for getting copyright guidance queued up for the TOB to respond to. I got a couple of approves on that, but I'd like to get some more before I merge this in. It's not a big change, but it's also throwing a new directory in there. So I just feel like I like to get a little bit more buy-in before I jump on that. And with that, there were a couple other changes I pushed out there just saying, here's how I implement it. So Tinon summed it up. Thanks. I hate it. Um, Mostly because going through all this stuff, it's like, fine, I add a whole header to a script. That's good to include that in there. But a good number of it was changing the Linux Foundation over to the Open Container Initiative contributors. And that felt very nitty to me. So wasn't excited, but it was just for consistency. And the whole reason of this was because of consistency. So I understood the response, and they were saying, yeah, why on earth would we do that? For context for anybody that missed it, there was a PR that came in a while back, which I linked to the PR because we have completely overwritten all the content by now. But in there, we were saying copyright the contributors to the open container dis distribution specification. And it's just like, well, we lost initiative in there. And now we're adding distribution specification. I said, now we're just change this term up all over the place. And I felt like we needed some consistency in there somewhere. So that was the triggering PR that made me go off on my little jump over to the TOB saying, hey, do we need to have some kind of like same value everywhere? Make this same. So sitting out there waiting for some reviews. And so distribution spec, we need another one over there. Maybe I'll get Derek to chime in on that one or someone else. I've got enough to do image spec right now. I'm just holding off on that one just because I want to get the TOB side merged. So speaking of TOB side, hey Sajay, this one's sitting in the queue there. 139. If you ever get a chance, that would be awesome.
Okay.
And with that wasn't peer pressure. That was just, hey, by the way, since you're here. Um, yeah, couple of small bugs found in the conformance test. One was a variable wasn't exported, so I need to get that merged. That's a simple one. And the other one was the way I pass in the variable in there for the version number changes if you're in main. And I found it the hard way. So that was Rom found that for us. Thank you for catching that one, Rom. So we got that detected. We just need to get that merged in. So those two are sitting out there right now as well. I'm just going to talk you all in like a blissful summer relaxation unless someone wants to slow me down or anything like that. Okay. I hear thumbs up to like relaxing tunes for the summer. I did put this request in for changing reference to what do we call it down there? Identifier was the one John proposed, and we got a couple thumbs up on that. And was one of those Adrian as well? Yeah, Adrian was one of those as well. So got a few thumbs up on that. That was from back in 2020. I finally got around to implementing this issue. And then people said, hey, we want to change it. So we're back and forth between this change and going back to the issue to say, how should we change it? So that's in there. Mike's had a few bits of feedback, and everybody else is kind of sitting back watching the discussion without saying much about it. Just for context on this one, because you've got like reference meaning the entire image name with the registry repository :tag for a lot of tools out there. I was trying to get that term out of places in our spec where we say call the manifest API with the reference parameter. Figure we should not overload that term as much. And so I was trying to switch to identifier, and I think Mike was saying, no, wait, we use that term other places. So now we might need to find another way to do that. He wanted to be more specific, saying the manifest identifier. That felt repetitively redundant since it's right in the manifest API. And that's the only place we're using that. But maybe we'll find something else. Tianon graciously volunteered that we switch over to the tag or digest. And honestly, that's just going to grow on me at some point. I'm not a fan of being specific, but at some point we're just going to fall into just saying, let's just do it that way. The risk of being specific is then you add a third parameter later on someday, and now you got to change the variable all over the place. But hopefully we don't do that. It's more theoretical. But yeah, we had reference in there for that. We also had way down on the table at the bottom all these places where we were specifying the blob upload URL, we were passing reference in there. Well, we don't even say that up above, so I had to introduce a new variable called the blob push location, and then be consistent about changing all of these to that, and above changing all the places where we were using location to be in the blob push location. And the reason I couldn't just say location was because when you do a blob push, one of the things you get back is a location after you push the blob of where you can do a get. And so there's a difference between the push and the get chaos. So that's in the review queue, kind of back in the issue queue right now as we debate on what we want to make that parameter now that I open that up. And then Rom wanted to volunteer the Zot registry as another implementation. I'm not opposed. I'm just kind of holding back saying, do we want to wait until that release comes out? And I know you've got your monthly cadence ROM. Would you be opposed if we held off a little bit until 2.1.19 is out?
No problem.
Okay.
That would be the right thing to do, by the way. So,
And I think in here, all the stuff that I was catching was because you were running it from the GitHub action, and that was why there are a few things in there like that. So I think we're all good in terms of what's in there. I'll do another review at some point here, but yeah, hopefully the GitHub action merges so you get some better, you get a version number in there and stuff like that for the commit. And then once your version merges, I'll at least put my thumbs up on it. If other people jump the gun and want to put their approvals on there, I'm not going to stop it. But I figured I would just hold off until the version releases. All right. I've talked to y'all to death. Jeff, would you like to chat about yours?
Sure. I guess can we do the other one first? I feel like it's probably less.
Was there another one?
Yeah, I just added another one and I put it at top.
Surprise!
Slipped that one in there at the last minute.
You just sneak that in there right when I'm not paying attention. I get all my tabs updated and then you do that to me. Let's
This
do
is
it.
just updating the extension name table with known existing extensions in the wild. Yeah, fairly straightforward. Link to the chain guard docs where they talk about the underscore chain guard extension. I also went ahead and proactively reserved the underscore Docker extension. We do have some, they're not publicly documented yet. They probably will be at some point, but went ahead and at least marked it on the table, and then I'll update the docs to link after the fact, but just trying to get those in there. My only question is on the table formatting since it didn't match up.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do we really want this to be centered or just go left justified?
I would probably prefer left, but that is what it was, so I can change it.
If you go left justified, I will be in favor of that and gladly approve any PR that includes that change in there. Just because trying to center the text in here is a pain in the butt. All right. I'm not hearing any other comments on this one, Jeff, but I do see that you just pushed that in there.
Yeah, now I just gotta squash it, but
Yeah. I think if you're left justified, you don't need any of the colons in there at all.
is that the default? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the
Okay.
default. Giving you one more thing to do a rapid PR on.
I don't know. On the other hand, at least then it's explicit that this is what was intended. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, I'm good with both. And the crowd goes silent as always. I do appreciate that you kept it alphabetical in there. After the OCI, at least. I feel like we can take priority up top, but for all the vendor ones, having alphabetical is nice. It avoids someone saying that they take priority over anybody else. Alrighty. Are you frantically doing another change to that one, Jeff, or should we
I
jump to this
did.
one?
That one is hopefully now. I don't do well with Git under pressure, so there's a strong. Oh, I did it right. Never mind. All right.
Was that the squash and the commits?
Yep,
Okay. I was looking for the colon change. I'm like, the colon didn't change. Where did I just refresh? And I
I
saw a
left that
commit.
in there. Sorry, Tianan has to save my get actions all the time. So one of these days I'll learn enough to do it myself. But you know.
That's all right. You got backup around there. So what are we looking at for the tag history today?
I did go ahead and make a couple updates to it based off of the feedback. I removed the language about the if a tag is deleted. I previously had it pointed to a empty descriptor. I updated it to just say, yeah, if it's deleted, it refers to the manifesto or the digest that it was prior to being deleted. So that was changed. I fixed some of the musts and mays around based off of what you had said, Brandon. So I think there's still a couple things. This one, the actual annotation name is one of the open questions. Another open question was around passing a digest at the same time as a tab. So that was a comment that was made. If you did a sort of a pin digest, if you pass the tag at with a digest, um, sort of have it, I don't know, a fail fast scenario where if the digest that you passed in is not part of the history for a given tag, it would immediately return an error saying that digest is not part of the tag. So I guess the question is, does that get passed as a sort of a pin tag format or as part of like a digest query parameter? The query parameter is probably easier from the standpoint of do you have the URL escape an at sign on the on a URL?
Yeah, I feel like query parameter makes sense for me on that one.
Yeah, then they can at least be optional in that regard. Okay, I'll update that one to be a query parameter instead. Um, and then the other open question I had that I kind of alluded to is we're I think yeah, there's still a couple open questions here from Mike in terms of variable name or query parameter naming before versus older than or after or whatever we want to name things. I think is probably a bike shedding exercise when our legs get too much when they have too much energy. The Yeah, I guess the annotation name too. But then the other question is sort of, is this too much overloading of 404? So I was looking through what we currently have. Um, if the extension is just flat out not supported, we return a 404. If the repo is not found, but the extension is supported, it's a 404. If a tag has no history, then like if a tag just never existed, then it's a 404. And if you pass a digest and the digest did not ever belong to that tag, then that's also a 404. Is this kind of always a 404 and then we kind of pass back a message body that has a specific reason? Do we need to explore different error codes? Is that sort of fine? Yeah, it's just kind of open thought.
So one of the reasons in refers we forced the 200 response with an empty index was to make sure that we wouldn't 404. And the logic behind that was that we didn't want clients to make a request, see a 404, think that meant that the registry didn't implement refers, and then jump to the fallback. We were trying to eliminate some extra API calls in that case. There's no fallback here, but I'm wondering if there's a case where clients would want to know, well, potentially here's a fallback. If you don't see the tag history, then maybe you're going to hit some other tag listing APIs or some other ways you've got to search for this data. So That's the scenario I'm thinking of is from the client side, do I need to know whether or not you have implemented this at all to adjust how I do my responses and handling of this on the client side? And the crowd again goes silent.
I guess I could probably change it. Um, if you pass a digest with a tag, I suppose that could maybe be considered a 400, just a bad request, maybe, if it's invalid rather than a 404. So maybe that at least removes one of them. I think the question, I would say, yeah, I would say the history should still be available. So I
Yeah.
think there's two cases. One, if you delete a manifest, the history for that manifest should still show up in the history that it was there at one time, even if you can't currently pull it. And then same thing, if you delete a tag, I would say the history for that tag should still show up. But you may remove all history when the entire repository is deleted.
Yeah. And we're both answering Ram's question here in case folks are watching the video or something like that in the chat. Because I definitely imagine there would be people that want to query what this tag was before and have some funky workflow that deletes a tag and then recreates a tag rather than just overwrites a tag. So the behavior is a historical log. Yeah, the history endpoint is a historical log. Is that answering your question, Rob? I'm not sure if I'm misreading that.
Yeah, I think that it's just a subtle thing, right? I mean, whether it is reflecting what it exists in the registry right now, or is it a historical log also recording the entire history of the tag? That's just the slight difference. But looks like you want to keep the entire history.
Yeah, he wants to keep the history, and there's also this digest at this time was pushed to this tag, and then later on another digest was pushed to that tag. Potentially something was deleted in intermediate or something like that.
Yeah, the intent here would be a historical log for the tag. Yes.
I'm going to throw out a non sequitur almost, but not really. In our image layout, I am circling back to this whole PR, Jeff, so I'm not running away from you. In our layout, we have blobs, the OCI layout file, and the index.json. And I'm debating, could the OCI layout have the history in there, and should it be more data thrown in the index.json? Should it be a separate file in the top of the layout? And do we have some idea of how to safely add another file in the top of this layout without potentially colliding with future values in there? I just went into the whole extension process of the OCI layout.
So for me, I think the discussion around that is about whether the history is portable across registries or is it a registry specific thing.
So nice to have as portable. I'm more thinking about this from a if an implementation uses the OCI layout on the back end, which you and I might both be interested in this one, Rob. Is there a way we can safely save it within the OCI layout in a way that won't collide with future extensions to the OCI layout if OCI decides to add more features in the future?
Deep question.
All right. I'm just going to see that question for now. We'll circle back. It's at least in people's heads. Yeah, because part of my thought, Jeff, is do I want to consider implementing this in some of my registry implementations? Because part of me says no, because people that have an OCI layout like it to be compact and portable and that sort of stuff, unlike a registry, it wants to have some kind of log of everything. But part of me says, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad thing to add. So the thinking process is going on there. Yeah, for the annotations, I think just adding distribution in front of it will probably be good. On the flip side, it now means we've got a open containers distribution tag created similar to the other created on the image spec, but I'm not too upset about that.
So are you saying it'd be rather than org.opencontainers.tag.created, it would be org.opencontainers.distribution.tag.created?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense since this is a tracking. I mean, we're not parsing the tag out of OCI layout or a reference or the index or anything else. Like this is purely when the registry got it. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And we'll probably have a redundant annotation in the OCI layout for when the content was pushed in there, but I'm not too picky on that. We'll get that sorted. I think this one's going to come more up when we do the enhanced tag listing because the tag listing has the same content over there of when the tag was created.
But one problem at a time.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get this one through.
I was actually planning on working on the enhanced tag listing next on my queue right now. This one was farther down the list.
Ah, sad. I've already got this one up and I'm already working on the other. So
It's all right. We can juggle. We can do multiple things at once.
this one had more immediate use, but the other one is good too.
I mean, maybe for you. I know people want an enhanced tag listing, but I get it. Definitely get it.
This solves some immediate security concerns of when tags changed and rolling things back and all of that fun stuff.
Hmm.
The tag listing, I can do that via other APIs, even though I would really like to have this part of the registry. So
Makes sense. Oh, Rob had another question there. Is there extension thing that's already landed in the OCI layout? As best I know, it is not ROM. So there might be something that you and I can think about of do we want to put a prefix on a file name like an underscore inside the OCI layout directory that indicates, hey, this is a file in the directory that we're internally owning as part of our project, and then one day OCI can adopt some standard when everybody starts implementing the same thing. So I might make a proposal for image spec at some point on that one. Just that I'll be able to implement this stuff. All right, it's a quiet week. I think everybody is in holiday mode. Anything more on this one folks want to chat about? Anything more on any of these topics they folks want to chat about? Stunned silence. Okay. For those of you in the US, don't blow up anything that wasn't supposed to get blown up. But have a great rest of your weekend. If you're on the East Coast, don't melt. And have a great rest of your time. Circle back here next week. I may or may not be in the office next week. We'll see. Weather's looking nice enough that I might sneak out just because the heat wave will pass in. So time will tell. But thanks for another great week. And with that, I think that's a wrap. Cheers, all.
See ya.
Thanks all. See ya.